Greetings, everyone. My name is Peter Young, and I am a member of the planning committee of the Yale Career Panels. And I just want to speak for a minute before I introduce the moderator. This program was started 12 and a half years ago when a group of volunteers realized that as smart as Yale students are and graduates, and as well informed as they are, that it's very hard for them to get accurate and candid information about different careers. And we said we want to give people information that motivates them to become a lawyer or an actor, whatever it is, but also go in with their eyes open, knowing what's good and bad. And we've had so many wonderful emails from people who it really changed their careers in the right direction so that they ended up in the place they wanted to be. We have covered, I don't know how many professions, a huge number, whether it's, drama and film or music or sales or whatever it may be. And we encourage those of you who may have a profession that you want us to cover, just email us at yalecareerpanels@gmail.com and, and let us know a profession that you want. If you want to watch the recordings of the, 65 that we've done thus far, just go to yalecareerpanels.com and it'll have a list of all of the career panels, and you can watch the ones that you want. And so the last thing I want to say is that the next one is a Yale Career Panel, a candid view of the biotech industry, which is a hot area, as we all know. And that's going to be on February 13th. And we have two really good panelists who are going to be featured. So with that, I'd like to turn this over to Daisy Du. Daisy, is a Yale graduate, and she is a vaunted member of the Yale Career Panel Planning Committee. So it's a highlight of her career. So with that, I'll turn it over to Daisy, who's going to moderate.
Thank you, Peter. Never failed. Good evening or good morning, everyone, depending on where you are. Such a pleasure to be here today with three young and talented Yale College students who are going to talk about one of the, in my mind, really exciting topics we have for this year, which is about social influencer. As we all know, that social influencer is sort of like a new job or new career. And there are a lot of young people who are interested in it. Some people wanted to do it full-time. Some people are thinking about maybe doing it as a side gig. And we're very fortunate today that we're able to have three sort of social influencer to their definition. I'll let them talk. And I wanted to hear their candid view about what do they think is a social influencer, right? And what make a great social influencer? What's the career trajectory look like? And how that may differ from the traditional career paths that we have always been thinking about and talk about. So without further ado, I think it's always best for the panelists to introduce themselves as opposed to I read it on a script. So I'm just gonna, in the order that I see, Crawford, Grant, and then Sanaa. I'll give you each maybe 30 seconds to briefly introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Crawford Arnow. I'm a sophomore in Ezra Styles at Yale. I'm a double majoring in psychology and theater, dance, and performance studies. I do content creation, mostly on TikTok, but some on other platforms like Instagram as well. And when I'm not filming TikToks, I am perfecting my nap game between classes and rehearsals and trying to find the best gluten-free cookie I can in New Haven. And yeah, that's me.
Everyone, my name's Grant. I am a sophomore here. I study environmental engineering and I make TikToks as well. In my free time when I'm not doing that, I just recently started a band. I like to surf and play music, and I'm also in Navy ROTC, and I'm on the club water polo team, which I have practice for right after this. So excited to talk to you guys today.
Hi everyone, my name is Sanaa. I'm a senior in Pauli Murray College. I'm studying cognitive science and Spanish. I mostly make TikToks. I have not really transitioned to Instagram Reels yet, but when I'm not doing that, I work in a child development lab, which is really fun, and I like to play tennis and go to the museum, the UOG, and just spend time with friends around campus.
Wonderful, great, thank you. Well, so I think this is the first time, honestly, I've moderated a panel full of Yale College students. This is for sure, by far, the youngest panel ever had. And sorry, I probably drag up the average age, but you guys are the key of the show today. We have a list of questions we always ask about the career, what's it like to be in what you are doing. But given the topic for today is a little special and it's for sure a new type of career, I wanted to start off hearing about your perceptions about social influencer. So maybe as a start, can each one of you tell me, in your view, how would you define social influencer? What is a social influencer in your standard?
Go first. I think social influencer in the field of social media is someone who's built a community and has gained like a sense of credibility, for lack of a better word, in that community in the niche that they occupy. They normally like create content on a platform, and people can go to them for like a sense of relatability and trying to see kind of what's on trend.
So in terms of the actual thing that an influencer is able to tangibly create, that means that if you're an influencer, you're either leading to product sales or content engagement, something that congregates a lot of people, and they are in one way or another interacting with the things that you share, whether it's buying a course that you're selling or something that you created or a product you're promoting. But it doesn't have to be that. You can simply just post dancing videos and people like those videos and you're an influencer. I mean, there's technically different categories. Like there's nano, which is from like 1K to 10K, then micro 10K to 50K. And then you move up the scale until you get, 1 million followers plus. And then most people can agree that those are who you immediately think of as influencers. But just as we don't, I mean, Crawford has a staggering number of followers, but I myself, I only have about 84,000 followers, but I would still consider myself an influencer because of the things I'll talk about today, which aren't necessarily the follower count you have or the number of likes that you get.
I like that. Looking forward to hearing more about that. Sanaa?
Yeah, so I agree with what both Crawford and Grant have said. From my perspective, I've kind of been told that to be an influencer, people kind of have to see themselves in you. So, but this has to go beyond just one point of relatability. So usually who I would consider an influencer is someone that I think checks multiple boxes of something that I can see myself in. So it would either be like a student, someone who is from the same place as me, someone who has these hobbies, someone who, I don't know, has siblings. Like it can be really anything, but people just have to find themselves in you. And that's going to build that community that was mentioned and have people interact with your content and kind of go to you to either get advice, to just see what you're doing from day to day, or to be sold on something like that. But really, I think it's just building those connections and showing some sort of relatability to your audience.
A great way to think about it. I'm already learning a whole lot. And by the way, I know more people are joining us. For the audience, if you have any questions, feel free to type in the question in the chat box. We'll have plenty of time in the end for Q&A. So any question you wanted to ask, now is the time for you to consider that. So personally, for me, I think social influencer is a relatively new term. I don't know if you guys would agree with me, but I would say maybe 10 or 15 years ago, I started to see some social influencer, but this career or this type of job is certainly getting more and more attention over the last couple of years, over Instagram, over TikTok, and so on and so forth. Especially over the past week or so, as some of you probably know, the TikTok was banned for 48 hours and then back alive. And at the same time, some people in the US influencer migrated to the red note or red book, so they call in China, and started to post their videos. And because I happen to read Chinese as well, and I saw that on the other side of the world, people would call the social influencer migrating from TikTok refugees, and attract a lot of attention. I think what's a really interesting phenomena and create some really interesting dynamics. But now my question to three of you, given that you are all influencer with a lot of followers, be it 85, 84K or millions, where do you think this career or this job category is heading? Do you think it has a future? Where do you see it heading?
So before we talk about the trajectory of the career, I'd like to, in one broad generalizing stroke, I'm going to try and oversimplify what has been happening. So a while ago, TikTok was on the chopping block in the Congress because of issues related to First Amendment rights, data collection, and such. And the amount of data that it collects from its over 170 million active users. And it's a Chinese company, ByteDance, that owns TikTok. So the concern was that not necessarily that ByteDance was already giving the Chinese government access to user data, which is critical and tracks a lot of things, because the main concern is TikTok's algorithm is very potent, and that is the reason it has such high retention rates. And so with concerns of the Chinese government taking over control of this database, the US became very concerned with that, and now it was removed from the App Store. But one thing important to note is that while its algorithm is potent, there has been no traceable evidence presented of propaganda or illegal use thus far with ByteDance and selling data and such in means that would immediately cause for a ban that is very understandable. So people like Mark Zuckerberg and YouTube are concerned with this big market share that they want back as well. So there's a lot of factors at play in this. I mean, there's 7 million US small businesses on TikTok that stand to lose $1 billion in revenue in total, and 2 million more would suffer $300 million in lost earnings in 1 month. So there's a lot of money on the table and a lot of people's businesses. While I'm not bringing in that $1 billion in revenue, I still have clients in a business that I work with that is a big concern for myself. So, and the creator economy is said by Goldman Sachs to be worth about $480 billion by 2027. So it's a huge industry, and TikTok is a major player in that. And so now that that is done, in terms of where it's headed, there was a good quote I saw by a TikToker / lawyer who said, it's like building real estate on sand. You just never know. It's a moving target. We never know really what's going to happen after this short halt on the ban is up. We don't know where the app is going to go. But outside of the pure monetary and social impact that this would have, all I can say is that, and we'll talk more about this in a bit, but I've had testimonials from kids that I've worked with and just people that watch my videos that have said what an impact I've had on their lives, and these heartfelt messages. I'm only 20 years old, and knowing that I can have an impact on kids and genuinely positively impact their lives means a lot. And I don't want to see that go away, especially trying to migrate to a different platform where that certainty is not guaranteed. So with that, I'll leave it to my colleagues. I'd love to hear you guys' take on this.
Well, that was a great overview of everything that's happening. Nothing to add there. I'll just
The
talk
high bar
about
to me. Yeah.
from my perspective. So like I mentioned earlier, I make TikToks and do not really occupy spaces in other social media realms like Instagram, YouTube, and I did not ever download RedNote. So I'm a little bit, I don't know too much about what's going to happen with RedNote and everything like that. But I do think when you're making these type of videos, especially on TikTok, like Grant said, you do immediately see the connections that you form with people. For me personally, most of my content surrounds me being a student. So a lot of the people who interact with my videos will comment to me or DM me and say, "Hey, I want to apply to college, like you've inspired me, blah, 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 blah." And that's something that honestly, I feel like I'm just a regular person. I'm just a student who was figuring it out on my own too. So that's been really nice. And that's definitely something I want to keep doing as I'm graduating in May. And, I'm going to be entering the post-grad space and once again figuring it out on my own for the first time. And I think I'll be able to help a lot of people who are in similar situations to me with my content once I graduate as well. So I think if TikTok does go away, I definitely would want to try to continue making my videos and stuff like that. Maybe on Instagram, maybe on YouTube. I don't really know. But I think as of right now, most people are just continuing as is until it's not really an option anymore. And then because it is something so new, you just kind of have to roll with the punches and make changes as you see fit. And you can't really plan ahead with stuff like this. You kind of just have to take it as it goes.
Yeah, I agree with both of them. The state of TikTok especially is very precarious right now. But I think TikTok as a platform is so special because unlike other social medias, which feel a little more I'm gonna say professional for lack of a better word. TikTok is almost more casual. It's easier to make a community with people. People just post their thoughts. It's more of like a forum for people to just collaborate and communicate and form community with each other. So I think that's what's really special about TikTok. I've loved TikTok. I've been posting on it since 2020. So I'm fingers crossed, knock on wood, that it doesn't go away. I've got a lot to thank TikTok for. I love that quote that Grant said about building a foundation on sand, because I feel like for the trajectory of social media, it's always going to be a little unstable because it's such a new area to explore. But there are so many jobs that didn't exist 2 years ago that would have been unfathomable, right? And then now like being a content creator, I would never have thought of 2 years ago as being a job that you could do full time. But now, like there are people, like companies are employing people to do their social media work. You can do your own social media with just yourself as your brand. There are so many opportunities and niches that haven't yet been explored in the social media field, that one of the great parts of it being so new is that you can find the area that you want to work in and it's not like too oversaturated yet. And yeah, so I think that's a great part of where social media is heading as a career.
Wonderful. I learn a lot, and especially I agree with you, Crawford. I think a lot of the audience will agree with me as well. We all really love Grants, the way you say about where the direction, where the job is heading. It's like building real estate on sand. Same as many things in our life today or recently. And I think that's part of the fun, right? The uncertainty and how do we deal with uncertainty bring a lot of new things and excitement. With that said, I have to say, I have never ever seen, I don't know about Peter, but I've never seen in my time moderating the session that 20 minutes into a session, I've already got so many questions. I still have 7 questions to go that I prepare. So I hope you guys are ready. I mean, 3 of you. But the first one, I think it's a really good question. I should have asked you. Maybe when you introduce yourself, I don't think any of you actually gave us a clue of what is your social media, what exactly, if we wanted to follow you, how do we find you, right? And maybe all 3 of you can find a time to type in, how do we find you on TikTok or whatever other social media platform. So that way, the audience can find a time to follow you and know who you are and sort of get to know what type of topics you cover. So that's really the first question is, what's the topic that each of you covers and what's your message, right? So I think we sort of like answer that if they know who you are from the social media. But the second question, I really like it. And so I wanted to push that one out and then come back to the original question. As a creator, how do you set boundaries to balance the pressure to push content while maintaining a sense of personal privacy and being a real person? I bet all of you have the problem. We don't have a problem as a private person because we're now well known, but for three of you, it's a different story. So maybe tell us a little bit about that.
I can start with this one because I think a lot of the content I make would be classified as like lifestyle content. And when you do that, that's when people do start really wanting to know many details about your life and asking you questions in the comments that maybe you're not comfortable sharing. And for me, my perspective on at least TikTok is there's two ways to grow followers. One is to occupy a niche that people are just obsessed with and will follow you for that reason. And the other is to overshare every detail of your life and people feel like they know you, so that's why they follow you and keep interacting with your content. And for me, I personally do not feel comfortable occupying the overshare category and like saying every detail of my life online. But for that reason, I think I've kind of tried to find the balance of really just making my content more student centric. So I'll talk about like my studies, I'll talk about my life at Yale, what do I do in the day to day, different things. People will ask me in the comments, and I'm happy to share like what classes have you taken, what did you do in high school to get into school, those type of things, or just random niche questions about Yale specifically. I'm always happy to answer those type of questions, but when people do comment the more personal, like tell me the secret about yourself or something like that, I usually tend to stray away from that just because I do think that comes with a lot of consequences to post those many details online. But I think when you focus your content on one aspect of your life, if that aspect of your life has um, enough information and enough space for you to dive deep into that, you still will build the connection with your followers where they don't feel like you're not being very personal or you're holding back in a way. And so for me, I just really try to dive into the student aspect of my life and kind of leave other aspects out. And I think that's been really helpful because even though I'm not sharing every aspect, people who are in school or looking to go to school still feel as though they can relate to me and my content.
You can go next.
So
Oh, Sai,
go
maybe-
ahead, Crawford.
All you, floor's yours.
Okay. All right. So I make videos about college admissions and how I can help kids get into their dream schools. And a lot of times that's advice videos and in addition, relatable college content, like what it's like to be a student at Yale, stuff like that. And to just give a brief backstory, because I feel like this will address the question, I got started with TikTok on a whim. I posted my first video because my friend suggested I do. I made a 4-minute compilation or something of my college admissions reactions to opening my decision letters. And it just kind of went from there. My first video, I went 1 for 1, and that's just kind of how I ended up where I am today. And I just got a lot of that is luck, and I'm very grateful for that. But I'm also using my platform to help give back to kids the things that I've learned in doing what I've done and just trying to make the college admissions experience a little less painful and demystify the whole thing. So going back to the question, that's what I use the platform for. And in terms of pushing content versus feeling the pressure to share certain things with the niche that I occupy, I don't really feel the pressure to overshare because I'm simply sharing advice. Now I do overshare in the sense that I have to balance how much I can give my audience, because at the end of the day, I still funnel the people who watch my videos into the people I work with one-on-one. So of course, if I lay my whole playbook out there, then I'm giving it away for free, and that's just bad business. So I do have to balance that. But in terms of feeling pressure to overshare parts of my life, no. But I do feel a pressure to post, and it is a fallacy, I believe, that I fell into early on, thinking that people are waiting to hear what you have to post. And a lot of times I think that's just made up because you're told if you want to be successful as an influencer, you have to post every single day, 3 times a day. And you get worried when you're not doing that because it's like, oh my gosh, I have so many people waiting on me. But the truth is that that's not necessarily the case. And sometimes you're just not that important. And you gotta realize that. But no, the pressure is real, and I can totally understand when I'm making videos about my experience at college. I'm like, I can't say names. I can't say like if I post to someone on campus and be like, oh, this was about me. So it is a little weird, especially when you're around the people who are like, hey, I just watched your video today. Like, I thought it was stupid, and then you have to deal with that. So you got to balance the criticism.
I started posting when I was 15 on TikTok. I originally started because I'm a big theater kid. And was back then too. And when with COVID happening, I was like, how do I connect with people the way I was accustomed to? And so I downloaded TikTok, I started scrolling through, and then I started making COVID parodies of songs. And then I made like a big group of friends through TikTok, and then that kind of evolved to where it is now. I would go live for like 8 hours a day, but I always looked forward to posting because it was a reason to like, especially when everyone was just home with their families, it was a reason to like get me out of pajamas, out of bed, and to like make something. So it was a good creative outlet for me. So with regards to feeling pressure to post, I always like actually look forward to it. It's something fun that's like a break from the rest of the stresses of the day, where it's like, okay, I can just do this one creative fun thing. And my content is mostly focused around like, for lack of a better way to put it, relatable humor. Where it's like something to put a smile on someone's face is always my goal. If someone looks at a video of mine. So I try to keep things more light and positive. But because I've been on TikTok since I was 15, my digital footprint is crazy. There are definitely moments where I've been that person who's overshared. And so there's so many, but if I realized if I ever feel like pressured to overshare, I used to like just be like, no, I'm good. Like I feel a little uncomfortable. And people are nice enough when you address it like that online, just be like, oh, well, back off. He's like 17 now, you know? So that's a good thing about humanity.
I love that. I mean, honestly, I could already see the personality, the commonality, and the differences between three of you. And apparently, you're all doing really well what you are doing. But again, reminds me, which is actually related to the next two questions I'm going to be asking, that for every job or every career, there are a phenotype that seem to be doing really well and thriving in that category. But at the same time, there are also people that may be struggling. They like that job, they like the prospect, but for one reason or another, they just seem not be able to pull it off or do it well. And looking at three of you, and apparently you all really like what you do, you are really doing really well, but maybe some advice for people who are thinking about getting in this career path. In your observation, what are the type of people who tend to do really well as a social influencer? And at the same time, what are the type of people who are struggling in your observation? Any thoughts? And by the way, don't feel obligated to answer every questions. We have plenty of questions. You can pick and choose. If you want to answer all the questions, feel free. You guys are all social influencer. You know how to talk.
I'll take this one first, and I'm going to start by tweaking Sanaa's definition of why people watch you just a little bit. So, in my opinion, I believe that there's 3 ways that people find success, and they do so by identifying what out of these three categories they are best at. And they're not mutually exclusive. You can do both. But I believe there's entertainment. So whether you're funny, attractive, you give education on something that like you learn a cool, fun science fact and you're like very interesting to watch, then that is one way that you can entertain people. But two, there's people who want to be like you. So for example, like with Sanaa, posting relatable college stuff, especially at an Ivy League university, is something people really want to feel a part of and to see what it's like. So they'll watch that stuff to understand what it is like to live that life and be a college student, and possibly in hopes of being one day. And lastly, you tell people how to be like you by giving advice. So with these three categories, finding out what it is that you do best or what you really want to focus on getting better at, I believe is what helps you become a better influencer and gain a bigger following and impact people. So for example, I believe the thing that I work the hardest on is trying to tell people how to get into college and give them advice on that. And so if you can identify what it is that you want to accomplish with your account and really dig into that by posting consistently videos about it, using hashtags to get on that side of TikTok, because just to define that term, there's like book talk, then there's jazz talk, there's all of these different sub Reddits or sub sections of TikTok, colloquially at least, that people find themselves on, like, or music talk. So getting on whatever your niche talk is, finding out what that is, and then being able to repeat that and give people what they want and keep them hooked is really the art. And honestly, it is a matter of retaining somebody's attention and being watchable, because you have about, I think research shows it's like 1.5 to 2 seconds, somewhere in there, less than 5 seconds to catch somebody's attention with what you're saying in the video. And they have to know, what am I getting out of this? Am I going to be entertained? Am I going to learn something? Or am I simply just going to like the video because it's relatable? Any of those things will really, when looking at your videos, like, what is my viewer going to get out of this? Keeping that in mind will really help someone be successful. Now, being bad at it is not realizing where your error is in entertaining people. If you just don't have the right jokes or the right videos for your audience that you so far have attracted, trying to, so for example, like for myself, I found that videos that aren't about college admissions don't usually work as well. And it's a hard sell because people come to me for one thing, and that is to learn something. And so when I'm trying to entertain them with something different that they weren't expecting, but they know me for something different, that loses their attention, and those videos don't go as well.
No one else like to answer? Oh, Crawford, there you go.
Oh, I can do it. I think for answering like who, I think one of the greatest parts of social media is that it's so accessible. I think it's the most accessible form of entertainment. So like unlike film or theater where it might be harder to break into, and it's like set behind boundaries of experience or like who you know, because almost everyone has social media. It's You can post a video and then you can you can enter into that world kind of. And I think that if you're I think one of the biggest things is to be passionate about what you do and genuine about what you do. I think inauthenticity is really observable. Like the audience can tell when you're like in it for the wrong reasons, or in it like where you're kind of going through the motions of it rather than you're passionate about the topic. And I think you also got to be someone who's Grant like mentioned luck a little bit, where it's like I think it is equal parts maybe like hard work and luck, where if you get lucky but you don't have the hard work to back it up, then you're not gonna get anywhere. It's like very fleeting. It's like we'll go with the trends. But if you get lucky and you have the hard work to back it up, then that'll take you places. hopefully.
Yeah, and I won't add too much to either of those answers because I think they summed it up really well. But I just want to say for my area, since I do more lifestyle stuff, I think there are different things that make you successful in that. And of course, there's some people who are successful just because they like are famous, and as soon as their face pops up on your For You page, you know them, you recognize them, so they're gonna like your content. But that's unfortunately not the position I'm in yet. So I feel like I always have to do those attention grabs at the beginning. And since I do make content about being a student, for me, that's usually if I'm doing like a day in my life at Yale, instead of making the first clip like a clip of my face, since my face is not very recognizable, I'll do a clip of like somewhere on Yale campus because I feel like that is more recognizable to people who might not know who I am, and that'll get them to watch more than 1 second of my video. And then once they watch more than 1 second of my video, if they like it, then that's kind of how you'll gain some likes and followers and stuff like that. And I think Crawford said this, it really, you really do have to have the hard work to back it up, especially in the area of lifestyle content creation. There's some times where I'll be running around campus so busy, like running to a test or something, and I still have to remember to record myself doing whatever I'm doing so I can put it in a TikTok. And even though that sounds like nothing, sometimes it is. It is like an extra thing to do, especially when you're in the midst of everything you have to do as a Yale student. So you do really have to commit to capturing those moments and then going back to edit them later. Um, and I think one of the hardest things with that too is you will face a little bit of criticism if I'm walking through Sterling Library, recording myself and speaking, and people can see me. They're gonna judge me. They're gonna be like, "What is this girl doing?" But I have to do it anyways. So I think someone who has the confidence and comfort to do that type of stuff in public can find great success in this area. But if you don't see yourself feeling comfortable doing that, I honestly don't see how you could kind of gain success in this specific lifestyle niche. I think there's other niches that you could occupy.
Wonderful. I agree with all of you, and just reminds me of something I heard a long time ago, that when you choose a career, you have to find a place that sort of meets 3 criteria. The first one is you have to be passionate about it, which all of you mentioned. And the second thing is you have to be capable, right? And there might be something you're really passionate, but you are not capable. And apparently, by having so many followers, all 3 of you are really capable and passionate. And the last thing is it has to create value. And the whole reason why social influencer is a thing or is a phenomena clearly is because there's unmet need from a societal perspective. So there's value, and there's true value that all 3 of you are generating. So it seems like you're able to find the true niche that you are passionate about, you are capable, and generates the value. So I see more questions flooding in, and I'm trying to combine some of the similar ones. And for those of you who, feel your question is not fully addressed, please text again. I'll try to squeeze in as many questions as possible, which is really hard because I think all of them are great. But now I see a few questions that are sort of similar. Maybe let me ask it that way. Recently, I have seen a lot of influencer do it full time because there's a way to monetize it. They have sponsorship deal and so on and so forth. I don't know how they got it done, right? I suppose that's because they got really popular. They have so many followers. So as a result, the sponsor will come along your way. But that's purely from my outsider's perspective. If I ask all 3 of you, how do you monetize it? Or maybe monetize is not your goal. That's fine. But if so, right, how do you take it one step further and gain sponsorship? And ideally, the really good one, because we know not all of them are really good. So the floor is yours.
I can take this. I can start this one off. I think one of the myths with content creation is that like every time you post a video is kind of getting monetized, but I think that definitely not always the case. With especially like on Instagram, if you post, you're not going to get paid. On TikTok, it has to be at least a minute long with an original audio. And so there are all these criteria that you have to fit. And so there's that question of, are you willing to sacrifice some of your branding or some of your creativity to fit those restrictions in the name of like commercial gain or monetization. And so for me, I choose not to monetize because I feel like it would take some of the fun out of it of making a video daily. But when I do choose to, I normally love to work with companies and brands on brand deals. And so that looks like negotiating with the company, like some payment and like what you want, what you're gonna give them, what they're gonna give you, and trying to collaborate to form a video that both of you are proud of in the end of the day. And you can also work with companies on a more regular basis. Like Grant and I both work with Brewdog, which is a company founded by Yale students. It's a fashion company, and so I help make their TikToks, which is a lot of fun. And so that's more stable than just the on and off sponsorship here and there.
Yeah, and in terms of the money that you actually get, so the TikTok Creator Fund is where TikTok videos actually get monetized, and they have to be a minute long, like Crawford said. They have to have an original audio, and based on the user engagement, so how long they stay on the video, if they're liking it, if they're sharing it, that all factors into the about 2 to 4 cents per 1,000 views. So if I post a video, a minute long, original audio, I have average engagement, I can expect to make 20 to 40 bucks. That's it. So just because you're getting millions of views does not mean you're making a lot of money from that video you posted. So the sponsorships is where all of that really comes from. And for example, I just did one with Capital One, and because I'm a credit card user of theirs, and they reached out to me and I negotiated a deal. I basically give them deliverables that they then sponsor on my TikTok page, and it shows up as an ad, and I get paid a flat rate. Other agencies like to use, or other brands like to use, a commission, especially with the TikTok shop. That's super common. You can make anywhere from 5 to 8% commission on an item, and usually that has like a 1 to 3% click view to purchase rate. So that's pretty fruitful as well. But I don't make that much money off of posting my TikTok videos. I make a decent amount, fun money, but nothing to pay rent with.
Yeah, and I think they covered it, kind of summed it up a lot. But for me, I also don't make money from, or much money from, monetizing my videos. All the money that I've made off of TikTok has been from sponsorships. And for me, that's kind of looked like a company reaching out to me and saying like, we think you're a good fit, and then they'll just ask some questions and say, can you send us some of your video metrics or like audience metrics to see like if your audience is the audience that we're looking to cover, and if it does, then you move forward in the process. They tell you what they're looking for, give you some information about what they're willing to pay. And then yeah, for me, I've made videos and then kind of send it to the representative before posting it to make sure it's approved and everything like that. And then they'll tell me, post it on this time, post it this day. Um, and then yeah, it kind of just works like that. And like Grant said, I'm also not making money where I don't need to have a job once I graduate. That I think is honestly something very few content creators experience. And I've also only really been making TikTok since like September of 2024. So it really hasn't been that long for me. But I do definitely want to continue once I graduate. And honestly, because I'm not even making that much money is not my incentive to do it. It's nice to have more spending money, but I think anyone who kind of starts making TikToks or any content creation with the incentive of money is not going to find necessarily the success that they want, because it doesn't come that quick and that easy.
I love that, which answered a lot of the questions I yet have a chance to say. But since Sanaa, you mentioned that this is not necessarily going to be your full-time thing, right? And you wanted to explore career options once you graduate. How about Crawford and Grant? Do you think, I know you're both not yet in the year of graduation, it's my understanding, but do you plan to do this full-time, or do you think it's going to continue to be a side hustle? What do you think? For both of you.
I'll go first. The dream is to be an actor or to work in the entertainment industry in some capacity. So in social media definitely helps with that. Like giving you practice because you get to kind of be like on like the writer, the producer, the cinematographer, like the marketer. But I think it also going into acting, it's also an unstable job. Apparently, I love those. And so I would definitely could see myself, especially since I like doing something else or doing it full time to answer that question.
I also plan to, so I model as well, and having a following in the acting and modeling industry is huge nowadays. It's what a lot of agencies and people making productions look at because they want the people they have to have an audience to reach more people and thus make more money. So I was wanting to continue this anyways because I like to work with these kids trying to get into their dream schools because it's something I found I'm pretty good at. And through TikTok, I'm able to continually reach this audience who is in need of advice and is looking up college admissions videos on TikTok or how do I get in my dream school on TikTok. I want to continue being the guy that pops up at the top of that search, and I'm able to help these people out because it makes me happy and helps them accomplish their goals.
Excellent. Great. Now I see. Well, thank you for typing in. How do we find you? That's great, actually, because the audience asked the question. It's wonderful. The next question or two questions I actually really like because I think that speaks to my heart. All of you are in college. Apparently, you're really young, but I know at least some of my friends, not necessarily that young, not necessarily in their 20s anymore, still wanted to be an influencer, right? I just wanted to dip the toe in the water to see what is it like, whether or not this is the right path for them as a side hustle. My question to you is just from your perspective, right? Do you think there's a need for older people like me or like Peter, right? And like Peter, more like Peter, like who are retired and wanting to do that, right? How do you think? And what content do you think would be good for them to start when they are not in their 20s?
I can take this one because I honestly follow and have some of my favorite influencers are older people. And I think a lot of it is because I as a young person, when I see that, it kind of is something so unfamiliar to me that it does really hold my attention. So I'll just speak from what I've watched. I think some of the most famous older influencers are people who occupy spaces like either their moms, they have kids, or they are moms but now empty nesters and now they're like going through their life as an empty nester. A big popular one that I've seen is people navigating like being divorced, new divorce life, something like that. And even I've seen there was this was like a few years ago. I don't know if it's still popular, but there was a really popular TikTok account called like the Retirement House or something like that, and that was full of like 70-year-old people retired and doing TikTok dances, traveling the world, doing like a retirement bucket list, something like that. So I really do think there's many areas that people can occupy when they're not 20 years old. And I think like for me, most of the people who watch me are my age or younger, but I think when you are older, you can occupy, like so many more people will be interested in your content. Whereas like for me, I don't have anyone like 40 or 50 watching my videos because really it's not something that they care about in the same way. But I think even younger people are very interested in seeing older influencers and different stages of life that they maybe have not yet experienced.
Going along with that, I think everyone has something to offer, no matter how old they are. When you asked the question, the first person, like content creator who popped into my head, there's this woman who does like what I wish I knew at 19 rather than like 49 or something. And so it's like, and then she gives all these advice that she has accrued over the years. And I'm like, that's so, and I always watch all of her videos when they pop up on my For You page because I'm like, this is so interesting. And she frames it in such a personal way to where, and it's really just about being a storyteller, like and everyone has the ability to tell a story. It's like innately human to be able to tell a story, and so I feel like anyone can tell a good story if it's personal to them and people will listen.
Yeah, they hit it. We got other questions. They did a great job. We can hear the other questions.
Great. By the way, can you see the question? All three of you, can you see the question I see? Okay, so perfect, because there's one question, I think for the sake of time, if you could do me a favor and type in your answer in the chat box, that'll be great, is what software do you use to edit your videos? I think this is a very specific question. If you can type in your answer in the chat box, and then I'll go through the rest of the question that I think we could discuss a little bit more. All right, so the next part, I think those are really good questions because I could totally see they happen and may put a toll on you. From a layperson perspective, I can imagine that there might be some negative comments to the video that you work really hard on, right? And there could be also times that you work really hard for a couple videos you posted consistently for a couple days and hoping to get more followers, but nothing happened. And there might be more negative comments. When that happened, how do you deal with it? And what's the advice that you may have for people who are thinking about going into this career path, but do not necessarily, for lack of better word, if I can use it, have a thick skin? It's not a word I come up with, some of the audience, but I think that's a precise word.
So I have another quote that I really think about when I am posting videos and sharing to an audience of people who either hates me or loves me for whatever reason. And that quote is from the late rapper and artist Mac Miller, who said that I just have always felt as long as I'm 100% honest with myself, then it's just me. It's a lot easier to sleep at night that way. And so when I'm posting videos, I am making it strictly for me, who 3 years ago was the same kid looking up, what do I got to do to get into whatever university? What do I want to know about this? Like, what knowledge do I have that I can give to that older me, that younger me, that I wish I knew? And so that's what I'm thinking about when I'm making videos. So regardless of what people say, I just know, one, that it's something that I know for a fact I would have appreciated. And also, I constantly get emails and people even come up to me. Like, I cannot make this up. A kid came up to me today in the dining hall who was on a tour and said, "Hey, you're on TikTok. Like, you're part of the reason I decided to go to Yale. Like, thank you so much. Like, thank you for your help." And I literally cannot make this up. Like, this happened today. And I get emails about it all the time. And so just having that and knowing I can make at least one person's life better, I know for a fact at least one person's life is slightly better because of something I did, that keeps me going. And none of the hate really bothers me because I know what I can do when I am not scared about people hating on me.
Yeah, I really like what Grant said because I definitely have had similar experiences. I think when it comes to hate comments, at least The negative comments that I have gotten on my videos, and thank God, I know I'm very lucky. No one ever really comments anything directly about me or like about my appearance or anything like that. But because I make Yale content, I have gotten many, many comments saying that I'm insensitive or that a comment I've gotten like hundreds of times is like, oh, this is District 1 and I'm like District 13, like saying I'm like bragging about the resources and everything that I have at Yale. And when I first started getting those comments, it made me like think about what I was posting and, kind of reflect and make sure that that wasn't the vibes that I was giving off with my videos. And it truly isn't. None of my college content is meant to be bragging or showing off and like contributing to this exclusive idea of what Yale is. And that's why I like what Grant said, that if you know that you're just at least making one person's life better. I get those comments saying like, "Oh, you're in District 1," but I also get so many comments saying, "I want to apply here next year. What classes are you taking?" And then just knowing I can like respond to that and ignore the other things, um, it really makes me feel better, especially because at least for me, I know that my intentions are genuine with what I'm posting and I'm not trying to brag or show off or do anything like that, especially because I worked very hard to get into Yale too. So I don't know, I personally don't have the perspective that being proud of my accomplishments and wanting to share my accomplishments is wrong. So I think it really just comes down to the mindset that you have when you go through these comments. Obviously, like number one advice would be to ignore the comments, but that's not necessarily doable for all people. So I think it's really just you have to have the mindset that what are my intentions with what I'm posting? And if I know that I'm meeting my intentions, that's kind of all that matters.
They hit the nail on the head. I think they said it perfectly.
Excellent. I like it. Easier said than done, right? I cannot imagine. Easier said than done, but I get it for sure. I love your comments. I think that's very sincere. And I'm sure our audience all feel that way. So more questions are coming up, but I know we're almost running out of time. Given that we have 3 panelists, we may go, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes longer. For those of you who are in the audience, if you can stay with us for 5 or 10 minutes, that'll be great. If not, feel free to drop off. Completely understand. So next question. I really like it. I think it's a great question because it's forward looking. It's talking about the next step. And apparently all 3 of you are enjoying great followers, you are doing what you like, is creating value, and so on and so forth. Is there a niche that you want to branch out into? And how do you navigate that? And this audience also specifically said, and I really like this part, he or she said, I know you may be facing a prospect of that losing followers or views if you branch out. So how do you push yourself to diversify your content or take the risks?
I know for me, my content has changed a lot throughout the years, as I've changed as a person. So there was a point where I was making like cosplay videos, which if you don't know what that is, it's like dressing up as a character and emulating them, kind of. And so I still get comments today being like, bring back that cosplay. So and I have so much to thank for that era because it's like it's what got me a large following in the first place and have built a huge community. But I think that um, as you grow, your content will naturally shift. And if you have a strong enough community, they'll realize that and they'll want to grow with you if your brand is yourself rather than just like that niche of content. But yeah.
Yeah, I think this is definitely something I've been thinking about a lot because I am graduating in May and all of the stuff that I've posted, like basically the only thing that made me viral was posting about my life at Yale. And soon that's just not going to be an option. And I'm going to have to shift my content a lot to post grad life and stuff like that. Um, and I'm hoping that through the stuff I posted as a student, I have kind of, you know, showed my followers who I am as a person, and they can relate to me for other reasons aside from the fact that I'm a college student, and will be able to shift into other areas. Um, but really, like, I like what Crawford said, because I do think it's just about authenticity. Because the first video that I ever had go viral, I literally posted like as a joke, of me just eating in the Yale dining hall, and that's like really what started everything for me. So I kind of know that the people follow me because they thought the video I posted was funny, and it really wasn't me trying too hard or trying anything like that. So I think just keeping your authenticity will help. And um when you do want to shift your content, I think it also does help to shift to an area that you know does occupy a space that has potential for followers and for people to interact with it. And I think with me, while college is a great area to occupy, I know that I follow so many people who are living in New York doing post-grad things, just because like I'm excited to do that next year. So I don't think there's going to be a lack of space for me necessarily, even if I do switch.
Good. Okay. Excellent. Great. This is a question specific for Grant. In the interest of time, I'll give you 30 seconds. What kind of admission advice business do you run? How do you funnel your followers into buying your services?
So essentially, I have people who watch my videos fill out a survey, and then based on their college application, I determine how I can help them with their college application and achieve their goals, no matter what the school is, whether it's Harvard or whatever college it is that they'd like to apply to. So they watch my videos and they see, oh, I can fill this out, and then we'll be in touch. And then that's how I establish my client base. And then a lot of that after that is just recurring meetings and referrals from past clients. So that's that. And I saw this question earlier. I don't know, Daisy, if you were going to touch on it, but apparently they can't see the chat. But my TikTok handle is at Grant Tucker with one T. So GrantTucker. You find me there, same Instagram handle. And I use CapCut or TikTok. I think we all use the same, either CapCut or TikTok to make videos. Nothing too complicated, very
Oh,
straightforward.
okay. Excellent. Good. Because I see that. I don't know for the audience. I know the questions that I can see it, you guys can see it, but the
Right.
audience wouldn't be able to see the question that other members post. But I don't know for the video editing tool or your handler. So maybe Sanaa and Crawford, if you could, in the next, I'm gonna ask one last question, literally, and then we're done, because I know it's getting late. But for your last answer, maybe also repeat what's your handler, so we all know how to find you. It's also a great way for you to increase your follower base. So it's a win-win, right? But anyway, my last question is comprised of two questions, actually two questions. So one is shorter, the other one is longer. The shorter one is, who are the influencer you guys like to follow, right? So who are those that you really like? That's a shorter one. But the longer one is on behalf of actually all the people who are watching today and the people who are watching the replay in the future. I think a lot of them are really interested in what are the advice you would give for people who are thinking seriously about getting into this career, be it part-time or full-time, be it they're young or older. What are some advice, right? And so advice, and then the follower you like. If you can remind us your handler, that would be great.
Sure, I can go first. So my advice for anyone starting is honestly, you just have to start posting. And I know that sounds like extremely basic advice, but coming from someone who did not even start posting with the intent to go viral, that's literally the only way that you can do it. And consistency is key. I think once you've decided which area you want to occupy, you have to just keep posting, maybe make a goal for yourself. I want to post like 3 times a week, once a day, whatever your goal is, and just really try to stick to those goals. And I think for me, if if you're trying to begin as a side hustle or something like that, for me, I found it has been very helpful to, if I'm gonna tell myself, okay, this week I'm posting 4 TikToks and I'm gonna write out Monday it's this video, Tuesday it's this video, and like having a concise posting calendar will really help, especially because I have classes, I have other things. I can't just constantly be like thinking about TikTok. So, making sure I have a scheduled plan really helps. And then lastly, you kind of just have to put yourself out there. Don't be afraid to film in public. I think that was the biggest obstacle I've overcome, filming in public, filming um, in my classes, for example, stuff like that. You just have to do it. Um, and yeah, the influencers that I like to follow, I like mostly follow lifestyle content creators. Some of my favorite ones, I love Acquired Style. She posts videos about New York life, stuff like that. I love Monet McMichael. She also posts lifestyle content. Really, I just enjoy listening to other girls talk about their lives and do their makeup and watch their hair and do their hair and stuff like that. And my TikTok handle, it's kind of embarrassing because I made it as a joke, but my TikTok handle is cooking_mama too.
I'll go. My handle is at Crawford Arnow for TikTok, and then for Instagram, it's at Crawford.Arnow, little period in between them. I'll start with the influencers I like to follow. Like there's Chris Olsen, he's a classic. This guy named Michael DiCostanzo, he used to do the Wordle videos, and then now he just does like kind of more lifestyle like game videos. A lot of theater creators I follow. It's all over the board. There's this one girl named Casey from Book Talk who I follow. They're all great. And then uh, for advice for if you want to get into it, like Sanaa said, just I would like putting yourself out there, start posting, and then I would say like just keep on posting. I think it's hard to get, or it's easy to get unmotivated or like lose motivation when you keep on posting and you're not seeing a big growth. But if you stay consistent, I feel like you will eventually see that growth. And it's good to have all that content from beforehand that people can see. Think of it like Chapel Roan. She blew up because that one song, and then she had those other songs that people could listen to. Um, and yeah, just to enjoy um what you're making and have fun because that really shined through.
I think, by the way, this has been the
Mm.
most enjoyable panel. I have
I,
really
I
enjoyed
yes.
it. And I really want to thank all of the panelists and Daisy for a wonderful conversation. We are now 10
Peter,
past.
yeah, we still have Grant to finish up his comments. I don't know if you
I
can
was just gonna say, I was gonna say one last thing. Sorry, but the thing that I really wanted to get out of this is that Matthew McConaughey once said that, and this is advice to everyone, especially people who haven't posted, is that think about what it would be like, and as grim as this may sound, towards the end of your life, laying on your deathbed, thinking about the things that you didn't do and not taking that risk and posting on social media and putting yourself out there. I would rather post the video than not and think about what could have been, because I think like all of us here, I kind of blew up on accident, and had I not posted that video, my life would have been completely different. So I just think about the little things that one video could do. So post the video, post the Instagram post, make the story, whatever it is, write the book, do it, because I'd rather do it than live with the consequences and thoughts and regrets of not. So that's all.
So thank you all. I want to remind you, we have the Yale Career Panel on biotech on February 13th. I also want to, add to Grant's comment, so where, the whole idea of this whole program is to how to help people. And I think kind of one of my best memories was an email we received from a Yale graduate who said, you don't necessarily remember me, but I attended the Yale career panel on the medical profession. And I had graduated from Yale, a bachelor's degree in English, and I went into journalism, and I attended this career panel on the medical profession. And it really helped me understand that I really needed to change my life, and this is what I want to do. I want to be a doctor. He said, I went back to Yale to take all the science courses that I hadn't taken that I needed to be pre-med. Say, I'm now a second-year student at UPenn Medical School, and there's no question that this is what I want to do in life. You know, you get an email like that and you say, you know something, you know, I think we're doing a good thing, right? And I think this panel also is a great thing where it opens the eyes of a lot of people of all ages to really think about what the boundary is about their careers and what they should do. So I want to thank all of you and thank Daisy for doing such a great job. And I want to remind everyone that if you have a career that you think we ought to cover, please, you know, email us. And also for the handles and so forth, please get them to me and I will send them to everyone who registered, right? And that'll pick up your audience, right? The last thing is, a couple of years ago, my son, who graduated from Yale, by the way, I told him as a joke, but he didn't think I was joking. I said, I'm going to do a Yale career panel on the profession of clowns. And he said, Dad, if you do that, I'm going to disown you. So I may still do it if he pisses me off, but so on that note, and again, we all talked about videos. This is recorded and it's going to be posted. So if you want to see it, or for those people who missed it because their schedule changed, we're going to make it available. So thank you all.